So we're on Daf Yud Ches Amud Beis, and you'll see a Tosfos towards the bottom, Hein, and it's like one line above that.
Okay.
Amar Rav Mishum Rabbi Ruvain ben Itzrabili. Now we're talking about the fact that HaKadosh Baruch Hu organizes that so-and-so will marry so-and-so. And he wants to derive this min ha-Torah, min ha-Nevi'im, u'min ha-Ksuvim, me-Hashem ish le'ish. So man does not just find his marriage partner, but it's all coming from Hashem. Min ha-Torah dichsiv, vayan Lavan u'Besuel, vayomru, me-Hashem yotza dov. And this marriage between Yitzchak and Rivka is min ha-Shamayim. Min ha-Nevi'im dichsiv, ve'aviv ve'imo lo yadu ki me-Hashem hi. And once again, here's a pasuk in Shoftim with regard to Shimshon. He wanted to marry a certain woman. They tried to dissuade him. However, they were unaware that she had been ordained from the time of conception designated to be the wife of Shimshon. It was part of a divine plan. And that's what the pasuk means, ki me'Hashem hi, min ha-Ksuvim. And now we're going to derive something from Shlomo HaMelech's Mishlei, Bayis v'hon nachlas avos me'Hashem isha maskeles. So that although you inherit possessions in a state from your fathers, but an intelligent woman is from God. And here it's a little confusing because it doesn't sound like it's an absolute universal rule that your wife is from God. It sounds like we're talking about a special case, an exceptional case of a very intelligent woman, Isha Maskeles. But maybe the word Maskeles here is sort of a secondary word, meaning we read it Ume Hashem Isha, that she is from Hashem. And then you should know that Hashem has your best interest in mind because he'll send you, hopefully, if all is right, an Isha Maskeles, a wise woman. Now, Shlomo Melech makes a contrast to Bayis v'hon, to a house and property. And a house and property are not coming necessarily straight from God. And yet, the Gemara says in Masechet Nida on Daf Tezayin that Hashem decides whether a person will be rich or poor. So it would seem that even a house and property are min Hashem. And yet, the pasuk seems to indicate the Bayis v'hon nachlas avos. It's not me Hashem. So the Maharsha gives an answer here that although at the time of conception, as we discussed in the earlier Gemara on this daf, there's already a determination about Ish Ploni Labas Ploni. That already took place at the time of conception, but it's possible that you can achieve wealth in a different way, in a different method. And that is indirect to the decree of God. And let's say, for example, somebody dies and you inherit them as an heir. So it could be that that's also from a decree of God because God decreed when that person should pass on from this world, should die. So even in the case of wealth and an estate, obviously God is behind it all. He's the ultimate cause, but it's not a direct relationship as it is with regard to a wife. She's not a result of an indirect decree of God, but rather a direct decree of God. So with regard to wealth, it's that God decreed that so-and-so, your relative, would die. So that's an indirect action or divine ordainment. The Amarav Mishum, furthermore, Yeruvain ben Esra Tolobi, the Amri Levi Masnisa Tana, it could be we learned the Debraisa, Amar Rabbi Ruvain Benat, it's Teraboli, Ein Adam Nechshad, Bidavar, Elim Kain Aso. Like we say, when there's smoke, there's fire. So when a person is suspected of something, especially in the area of immorality, and the rumors going around in the community, then it's probable that this person was guilty of it, or at least he's guilty of some of it. Maybe he went into a private place with a woman, which he's not allowed to do. He did something that was not right, and that led to the spreading of the rumor. So now we have more of a metaphysical element here, that God punishes man for his machshavos ros, for his thoughts and hirhurim. Ra acherim sha'asu v'samach. If he didn't have a thought of doing it, he has seen others do it, and he was glad. Masiv Rav Yaakov. Rav Yaakov raised the following kasha based on Malachim Beis. And this is the exile of the 10 tribes. Vayachpa'u b'nei Yisrael dvarim asher lochen al Hashem Eloheichem. The children of Israel, vayachpu, milashon lechapos, to attribute to something. And they're attributing to God that which is not from Hashem. So that you can have all sorts of chashoshos, and they're completely unfounded. So we see clearly, and this is the kasha of Rabbi Yaakov, that you could have suspicions that are completely unfounded. So why do you tell me, Rav, in the name of Rabbi Reuven, that any time there's smoke, there's fire? And Gemara answers, Hasam lahachis hu diavad. In a case of lahachis, that's when we say that the suspicion is well-founded. In other words, when a person acts deliberately, biyad ramah, in order to undermine the authority of God, then eventually it's gonna get out. Now, when it says Hasam lahachis hudi avud, that's the case where imlo asakulo asa miktsaso, and lahachis means in order to provoke divine wrath. And they could say things and do things that have no basis in reality. Just lahachis. Ashma. Again, we're going to try to challenge Rabbi Reuven, who's claiming that everything that we find in marriage and so forth, it's all part of a divine scheme. Vayikanu leMoshe b'machne liAaron Kadosh Hashem. Vayikanu here means jealousy. So they were jealous of Moshe, who's in the camp, and also of Aaron, who is Kadosh Yisrael, Kadosh Hashem. And we're talking about the rebellion of Korach. Rav Shmuel bar Yitzchak Omar Malami shekol echad kino li ishto mimoshe. So we see that there is such an entity as a false rumor, and the rumor has no basis in reality because everyone was suspicious of Moshe Rabbeinu that he was having some sort of fling with their wives, with each one's wife, and yet he was purely innocent. So how can you tell me that whenever there's a bad rumor about somebody, there's truth to it? Here's a case of Moshe Rabbeinu, a bad rumor, and there's no truth. He's purely innocent. And the Gemara says, Hashem misum sinahu di'ovid. We're not talking about someone who has a bad reputation. We're talking about people who, out of hatred, will create a libel against someone and try to cast suspicions on them. Ashma, Amar Rabbi Yossi, Yechelki mi shechoshtin oso b'davar v'yein bo. I want to have a chelik in those who are suspected, and he's innocent. Why does Rabbi Yossi want to be part of that group? What's the advantage of being part of that group? Apparently, this is what's called a kapara. That if people are choshed you b'davar, and it's not true at all, that's going to generate a kapara, an atonement. The Amar Papa, l'didi chashtun v'lo havibi. I myself was suspected of something, and I was innocent. And again, we see that even if there's a rumor going around, it's not necessarily true. A person could be innocent and yet suspected. So Gemara answers lo kasha, ha b'kola de posik, ha b'kola de lo posik. When these rumors go around, sometimes you have a rumor that eventually just peters out, and that's called de posik. Then you have other rumors that never let up. They are always persistent. And they are rumors that are spread through the word, through dibur, through lashon. So kala de lo pasik means that the rumor is perpetual. It keeps popping up every so often. So the Gemara asks the kala de lo pasik ad kama. What do you mean that there is a long life for that rumor? Amar Abaye, Amrli Aim. In other words, Abaye is saying that my mother told me, you see, Abaye was born without a mother, but they hired a very intelligent woman to raise him. And many times in the Shas, Rava quotes his mother, quote unquote. It's not really his mother. And she would say, Dumi b'masa yoma upalka. He's talking about suspicions. And in the local town, there are suspicions. People are murmuring. They're whispering about some official leader in the Jewish people that he's guilty of crimes. Is Abai said, Amrali Aim, my mother told me, Gumi de Masa Yomo Palga. So what does this mean? Yoma Upalga, day and a half. Dumi de Masa. Dumi, I think, are suspicions. The Masa's in the town. And what's Yoma Upalga? A day and a half. What's going on here? So Dumi de Masa Yoma Upalga. Let's see if he says anything here in the note. If a rumor lasts a day and a half, it's presumably grounded in fact. When we speak about a rumor that lasts, it only has to last 1.5 days, and it's legitimate. Aval pasak beino beini ubein ubeinei leslan ba. So he's not manufacturing, he's not selling in some sort of drugstore. So he should be allowed to benefit from the oils, but Rabbi Akiva didn't allow him to do so. Anyway, let's just go over it one more time. Hani mili delo pasak beni ubeni aval pasak beni ubeni leslan ba. So if a rumor took a how should I say, a hiatus, a period of time in which the rumor was no longer circulating, then we don't give any credence to the rumor. If, on the other hand, it's lo pasak beni ubeni, there was no let up or break in the rumor, then it all depends upon a day and a half. What does he say over here? If the rumor stopped and then started again, even if it ultimately lasted a total of 1.5 days, it's inconsequential. V'chi pasak beni ubeni lo amarin el de lo pasak machmas yira, but pasak machmas yira lo. Sometimes the reason why a rumor comes to a close is because of yira. And he says that yira means that they'll suffer retribution. V'lo amaran ela de lo hadar nava. We're not going to accept this principle that if the room stopped, it's considered baseless. Ella, except for the case of the lohadar nava. It didn't spring again. So novat means to spring up again. Aval hadar novat, even if it stopped, but now it commenced again, and it lasts for a day and a half, then lo. Lo meaning it's something that you have to suspect because it's not baseless. The law marna el delesle oivim. He has no enemies. We assume that it was his enemies that generated this rumor. and then we don't have to worry about the rumor. We don't have to suspect that it's true.